Chapter 891, No Strength, No Pressure. The big man who worked for the Zhangs had a rather uncommon eyesight himself, as he could see the imposing aura these people had within them. He realized that these people were of uncommon origins, so he used his walkie-talkie to report the situation here to the person who was in charge of the family's security issues. Deep inside the residence, the patriarch of the Zhangs, Zhang Pinqin, was now watching calligraphy and painting in his study, while Zhang Wendi, the most outstanding junior of the new generation of his family, was standing beside him. He was also Zhang Pinqin's grandson. "What do you think about this calligraphy painting?" Zhang Pinqin reluctantly retracted his eyes from the calligraphy and asked his grandson. "This painting is just a string of numbers in my eyes," said Zhang Wendi indifferently. "The longer the number of digits, the better it is. Grandpa, you only need to tell me how to sell this object and with how much money you can buy it. There's a lot of things that can't be measured by money, Wendi." Zhang Pinqin shook his head and forced a wry smile. The same concept can be applied with the advice that you should never look at the issues at hand with a careless attitude. I can tell you one thing, it's money that is a series of numbers. Whether it is 100 million or 100 billion, it's no different in my eyes. Yet, the wealth can make our family more and more powerful. No, talked back Zhang Wendi with all seriousness. Sigh, it seems the way I taught you over the years has really been a problem, reluctantly sighed Zhang Pinqin. Even now, I can see you not as a child 20-something years old, but rather a full-pledged, copper coin-smelling businessman who chases benefits with a rigorous and cold attitude. Well, it may be a good thing for our family, but for you? I think I like it quite well, Grandpa, cut off Zhang Wendi with an indifferent expression. Knock, knock. The open door was knocked and the security captain, Zhang Wenjiao, came inside and said in a deep voice, "Uncle, Wendi, there's someone outside who has shown up at the entrance. He said that he's Tang Xiu." Tang Xiu? Surnamed Tang, huh? Zhang Pinqin's eyes raised and he looked at Zhang Wendi. "What do you think? Should we warmly welcome him, or rather drive him away?" "Well, today is really interesting, isn't it?" Zhang Wendi grinned. "We drove away the old one and now comes the young one. The Tangs are really an amazing marvel, don't you think? He's the famous miracle-working doctor, and the big boss of magnificent Tang Corporation, as well as the young master of the Tang family of Beijing, yes? With such halos shrouding the sky, I do want to see him so much." "Then I'll hand over this issue to you since you want to see him," said Zhang Pinqin indifferently. "But keep in mind that Kutu is busy taking over those two ports as quickly as possible. If, in the case that they really don't want to give them up, I'll personally visit the highest official of Hong Kong, while you yourself can run amok slaying." "Got it." Zhang Wendi's reply was very casual and he left the room with Zhang Wenjiao. 10 minutes later, inside the other pavilion of the Zhangs, Zhang Wendi sat in front of the stone table while quietly savoring the scented tea. As a small group of people came inside, his eyes then fixated on Tang Xiu who was at the forefront. Disdain and contempt flashed in his eyes after a few seconds of observation before his eyes then fell on the teapot again. "Quite crazy, aren't you?" Tang Xiu went straight to Zhang Wendi's front and took a seat. He then snatched the teapot from his hand to pour himself a cup of fragrant tea. He took a sip and lightly said, "I thought I could taste a genuine good tea from young Master Zhang, but little did I think this one just tasted so-so." "Young Master Zhang, you're Zhang Wendi, aren't you? Can I ask you a question?" "You?" Anger flashed in Zhang Wendi's eyes, yet Tang Xiu interrupted him just as he spoke a word. "You know, my question is quite simple and you should 100% be able to answer it, to be honest," said Tang Xiu with a trace of curious look on his face. "Just listen to my question well. Do your parents know that you're so arrogant?" Bam! Zhang Wendi slapped the stone table with killing intent glittering in his eyes. He coldly said, "Surnamed Tang, you can eat any food at your will, but never speak shit carelessly. This place is not your family's in Beijing, but my home. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and said, "Well, I can understand that. But, are you threatening me?" "How is this threatening you?" asked Zhang Wendy coldly. "It's easy for me to make you never come out of here if I want to." Truly an idiot. Tang Xiu shook his head. He then waved to Xingluan and said with a light smile, "You're the VIP I've invited, so don't stand far away with the background people, will you?" To be honest, the tea of his family is rather ordinary. But, today is a hot day. Let's ignore the taste and just have some sips to relieve our thirst. Xingluan just smiled as he came over to the stone table and took a seat. He imitated Tang Xiu's style, grabbing the teapot and pouring himself a cup of tea. After sipping it, he pursed his lips and snorted, "Humph, it's like what you told me indeed, Mr. Tang. Even if I know nothing about tea ceremony and I don't like tea that much, this tea indeed has an unpleasant taste." The Zhangs are said to be wealthy with lots of assets in Macau, yet they don't have much while being so petty to entertain their guests. I really didn't expect it. "Who the hell are you?" shouted Zhang Wendy angrily. "Speak to Mr. Tang if you got anything to say, will you?" Xingluan waved and said, "There's an adage that says, in your country that a man is just a passerby when he's just a hired thug, right?" Zhang Wendy suddenly stood up. A smile crept up on his handsome face and it was getting thicker as time passed. He finally burst into laughter and said, "Not bad. It's just great. Nobody has ever dared to act arrogantly before me ever since I can remember. Tang Xiu has it great since he has his Tang family of Beijing to cover him, but I wonder who's the one who shelters you? Otherwise, you will never get out of this place alive, even if Tang Xiu is here today." Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, a round of applause came from outside the pavilion as a robust and stalwart middle-aged man waltzed in with a dozen of strongmen. Young Master Zhang spoke correctly. You must have enough background if you want to be flippant and impudent. Those who have neither background nor strength to pressure others will eventually die, getting struck by lightning. A chilling light flashed in Xingluan's eyes. He didn't even turn his head as he recognized who the owner of the voice was. With his back facing that man, he sneered, "I don't know whether I have a strong background or not. How about you tell me about my background then?" "You are," Kutu knitted his brows. He faintly felt that the voice was a bit familiar. Xingluan then turned his head to look at Kutu who was coming over step by step. He sneered again, "You haven't answered my question. Is my background strong enough to be compared to yours?" Kutu's body was shaken and incredulity crept up on his face. Never once did he ever dream that he would encounter his clan's second young master here. Had it been before, he might not take this second young master seriously. But now, he was perfectly aware that the patriarch had begun to assess the two young masters, comparing their abilities and who was much stronger and would succeed the patriarch's seat in the future. It was not only that. The most important issue was that he just realized a couple of days ago that the current patriarch turned out to value this youngest pretender, and the possibility of him becoming the future patriarch of the clan was very large. Second young master. Kutu squeezed out a smile and saluted in a ceremonial attitude. "How would I dare to receive the address of second young master from you?" sneered Xingluan grimly. "Besides, I have no strength and have no rights to be arrogant since my dark shaman clan is so weak. I'm afraid I'll be blasted by lightning if I'm to boast here." "Well, it's different for you, though. I really admire your aggressive and domineering gesture. It's so damn amazing." "I didn't know that it was you just now, second young master," said Kutu awkwardly. "Thus, I said some disrespectful things. I just hope that you ignore it. Besides, the Zhangs are our clan's ally, so—" "Humph," snorted Xingluan coldly. There was shock on Zhang Wendy's face. He never thought that the kiddo who followed Tang Xiu would actually be the second young master of the Dark Shaman clan. He had seen the first young master of the clan, yet it was his first time seeing this second one. Words had it that the second young master of the Dark Shaman clan was a very talented youth, though cruel and merciless at the same time. He had now taken control of some of the Dark Shaman clan's power and was recognized and approved by some of the older members of the clan. But, how did he get together with Tang Xiu? This is gonna be troublesome. Zhang Wendy stared at Tang Xiu deeply. He then said in a deep voice, "You've invited the second young master of the Dark Shaman clan here. Is he your trump card up your sleeve?" "This issue is nothing but trivial to me. Why should I need a trump card?" asked Tang Xiu rhetorically. "You don't need any," sneered Zhang Wendy. "Your old man has come here today, yet he was also forced to leave frustrated. You think you're more powerful than him? Let's leave out this nonsensical talk, shall we?" "It's useless," Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "Get the Zhang family's patriarch to get out to make his stance. I'll give you a chance, it's up to you to grab it or not." "Depending on your words," sneered Zhang Wendy. "You don't have the qualifications to make my grandfather see you." Tang Xiu was silent for a moment. He tossed down a cup of tea and indifferently said, "So, will your gramps immediately come out to see me if I kill you?" Whoosh. Jinsher's figure instantly streaked lightning fast from the crowd afar, along with a glittering sword tip that straightly targeted Zhang Wendy's throat. "Shitty bastard." An aged and hoary voice sounded like a thunderclap as a decrepit old man appeared in front of Zhang Wendy in an instant. He grabbed a 2-foot-long axe in his hand and formed a rumbling layer of axe shadows to fend off Jinsher's sword strike. Bam, puff. The decrepit old man abruptly staggered backward with his body shaken. Fortunately, Zhang Wendy's reaction was fast and supported his back instantly so that he didn't fling backward and fall. Yet, the old man still spurted out a mouthful of blood that made all the members of the Zhangs present especially looked grim. "Carry on," spoke Tang Xiu with a very calm voice. That old man raised his hand to wipe the blood off the corner of his mouth and shouted, "Wait. There's something I want to say." "What do you want to say?" asked Tang Xiu apathetically. "Don't say that you want to beg for mercy. It's just a waste of time and spits. You want to see our patriarch, so I'll immediately notice him see you," said the old man in a deep voice. "Let's not use force to solve the issues we can discuss at the negotiating table, shall we? Putting it bluntly, we all pursue profits and fortune, to begin with." Tang Xiu observed him and smilingly said, "You are afraid, aren't you, old thing? It's no wonder, though. After all, you've already broken through the barrier of martial art grandmaster and reached a higher realm, yet you can't even cope with 50+% of my man's strength. You got your blood running cold, don't you?" Chapter 892, Might Makes Right. Humiliation could be seen in the old man's eyes and his face flushed red. He was a martial art grandmaster of his generation that even other martial art grandmasters had to be respectful of and reverent. Upon seeing him, yet, how could he even be taunted and sneered at by this young man? However, he was also aware that Tang Xiu was right. He indeed had his blood running cold, alarmed and afraid. It was because from the clash with that guy, whether it was strength or speed, that man was better than him. He wouldn't have believed that the guy was that strong had it not been the aching sensation of his internal organs, and the uncomfortable feeling in his chest. It was impossible for that man to be this strong, even if he had been practicing since he was in his mother's womb. "Who is he?" The old man deeply looked at Jinsher before he turned his head and asked. "Does it make sense to you to have such a question now?" asked Tang Xiu lightly. "People said that powerful dragons can never suppress local snakes, but I never believed this false saying. Your Zhang family is indeed very strong in Macau, but there's no need to exert all of my power to suppress you here." Whoosh, whoosh. As his voice faded away, Jinsher's figure flashed again and instantly stormed toward the old man. Shueisha also followed suit as he appeared in front of Zhang Wendy instantly, along with a Mitsubishi army knife that appeared out of thin air in his hand, its tip slashed toward the latter's throat. "Stop!" Two middle-aged men rushed out of the crowd, one of whom dashed lightning fast to the front of Zhang. The other fended off Shueisha from the side. Bam, bam, bam. The Zhang's old man was barraged with dozens of punches and his old body was flung backwards like a fallen leaf. The two middle-aged men, however, all had fresh blood dripping from their shocking wounds all over their bodies. They had been barely able to avoid their vital parts from being injured while protecting Zhang Wendy. All right, it's enough. Tang Xiu took out a half-pack of cigarettes. He ignited one and threw the rest to Xingluan. He came to the Zhangs this time to solve the problem, not for a massacre. Jin Shi no longer attacked and went straight behind Tang Xiu, whereas Shueisha pursed his lips and seemed to be unsatisfied as he commented, "Boss, let's just straightly exterminate all these rookies and annihilate the Zhangs directly. Besides, in the past, we often rooted out all sources of the problems. Do your annihilation and rooting out desires abroad, but never make trouble for me at home," said Tang Xiu with a cold face. Ugh. Got it, boss, replied Shueisha with embarrassment as he shuffled back a few steps and no longer talked. Meanwhile, Jin Shi and the rest let out strange and awkward laughter towards him. Tang Xiu looked at Zhang Wendy who was ghastly pale and with fear on his face. He then said lightly, "You see, one must have enough capital to act arrogantly. You act arrogant before me and so does your family, which is very stupid in my eyes. My father is a soft-hearted and kind-hearted man since he doesn't want to lose all decency with your family. But I'm different from him. You all just annoyed and provoked the hell out of me, while I only need a nod to annihilate your family thoroughly. Thus, I'll give you 3 minutes to make your patriarch appear before me. If he doesn't come out within 3 minutes, then none of you should appear here." Zhang Wendy glanced at the 3 elders of his family and finally realized how terrifying Tang Xiu was. He didn't even think as he shouted, "I'll inform and ask my grandpa to come here." No need. Zhang Pinqin, who was surrounded by more than 10 members of the Zhangs, entered the pavilion. His pupils suddenly shrunk when he had taken a clear look of the situation inside. He then strode quickly to the severely wounded old man, propping him up and asking, "Are you all right, second brother?" The old man shook his head and forced a bitter smile, "I'm heavily injured, but it's not fatal." "They're too strong, big brother." Zhang Pinqin turned to look at Tang Xiu and spoke in a heavy tone, "You're Tang Xiu of the Tang family, yes? Are you relying on your wealthy and powerful family to come here and bully my family?" "You got that right," said Tang Xiu lightly. "I come to bully your Zhang family, so what do you guys want to do to me? I'll keep entertaining you if you want to play around still." "You." Little did Zhang Pinqin expect that Tang Xiu was so arrogant. However, he knew the strength of his second brother and his 2 nephews, yet they had been badly injured just now, evidence that the opponent was much stronger. "Don't use "you" to me, will you?" said Tang Xiu lightly. "If anything, I didn't have a plan to slaughter your Zhang family during my visit here. Yet, you dared to threaten us, so I won't let this matter go. Now tell me, how does your family plan to pay the collateral? You want me to pay compensation?" Zhang Pinqin was shaken inwardly as he asked, "What do you mean?" "Humph, your family wants those 2 ports, but they are my father and Uncle Chen's industry," sneered Tang Xiu grimly. "Now think for yourself, aren't you, the Zhangs, quite unbridled here? You've traumatized us, so isn't it proper to demand some compensation for the mental and spiritual damages?" Meanwhile, Chen Anhu, who had just been shocked by the fierce battle, now looked at Tang Xiu wearing an indifferent expression before him. Only then did he finally realize why his brother, Tang Yunda, wanted his son to come over. It was because there were a lot of powerhouses around his son. Yet, he also recalled how powerful the Zhangs in Macau were, so he finally began talking his piece with a bitter smile. "You can spare the compensation for mental damages, Tang Xiu. We can let it go as long as they no longer have the thoughts to snatch those 2 ports." "Is that so?" commented Tang Xiu with a faint smile that didn't quite seem like one. Zhang Pinqin, on the other hand, looked at the meek Kutu who was standing in silence nearby. He then spoke to him in a low voice, Kutu, my family is not only the only one who wants those 2 ports, but also your dark shaman clan. What's wrong with you now? They are now picking my family to bully us, yet you're just watching in silence like that? Kutu glanced at Singluan and he lit a hollow smile and said, Patriarch Zhang, we may be allies, but the second young master of the clan is here, so I have no room to have any say. The second young master of the dark shaman clan? That's Singluan? Zhang Pinqin glanced at the crowd and his eyes finally landed on the said guy. I'm just a hatchet man hired by Mr. Tang Xiu now, said Singluan apathetically. Whoever dares to cross him will have to face me. Your Zhang family may have allied with the dark shaman clan, but you're not my ally. Therefore, I do hope that your family lowers your guard before me, or else. You dare to go against your own dark shaman patriarch, Singluan, shouted Zhang Pinqin angrily. With that said, he grabbed his mobile phone to call the patriarch of the dark shaman clan, Krita. Have you thought about it clearly, Patriarch Zhang? Interjected Tang Xiu with a faint smile. Once you call it out, it's tantamount to tear all the decorum with me. I don't know if your family can afford to bear the consequences. Zhang Pinqin's expression turned stiff instantly and his fingers hung above the dial button. He eventually didn't press it and turned to look at Tang Xiu, speaking in a deep voice, you want my family to bow down to you, but that will have to wait until you can beat the most powerful expert of my family first. But I must tell you one thing in advance. The ancestor of the Zhangs has been living for 206 years and has reached the acme of perfection in his cultivation. Even those the likes of martial art grandmasters are nothing but ants before him. So, your family will comply with any condition I put forward if we can beat your ancestor then? Asked Tang Xiu smilingly. Disdain gleamed inside Zhang Pinqin's eyes as he proudly replied, that's right. If you can defeat the most powerful forefather of the Zhangs, my family will be univocally unhesitant to even cede our territory as compensation. Big brother, the heavily injured old man hurriedly called out. Zhang Pinqin raised his hand and sneered, you need not say more. Our family may have our blood bleeding out and heads severed, but we will never be humiliated. Clap, clap. Tang Xiu applauded and sighed. The Zhang family's patriarch is truly a brave man indeed. All right then, I'll accept your condition to let your forefather appear. You can have my word that as long as we lose, not only will we immediately leave the house of Zhang, but we will also compensate you. Whether you want money or those 2 ports, we'll have them offered to you immediately. At the side, Chen Anhu's expression drastically changed and he interjected quickly, Tang Xiu, this is. Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and indifferently said, Uncle Chen, please let me handle this issue if you trust me. You're the brother of my fathers and I'll never let you suffer any losses no matter what the outcome is. Chen Anhu's complexion changed and he looked indignant as he retorted loudly, what the hell are you spitting out? I'm your father's brother, so my things are also his. Do whatever you see fit since you've made up your mind. Worst comes to worst, the compensation is nothing but those 2 ports. Tang Xiu happily nodded at his response. He then looked at Mo Ao and said, you are to go on the stage to entertain him next. Understood, nodded Mo Ao respectfully. 10 minutes later, a bald old man in a white tracksuit came in from the outside. He had a thin stature, yet his eyes were full of spirit. His eyes fell on Mo Ao's group when he entered the pavilion. This is interesting. Truly interesting, muttered the old man as he continued, it's been centuries without seeing an interesting event like this. I originally thought that nobody apart from those famous extraordinary people would dare to propose a fight with me in this world, so I never thought that I would actually run into some bold baby dolls today. A smile climbed up the corner of Tang Xiu's mouth as he watched the old man and said, well. I never thought that the ancestor of the Zhang family would turn out to be endowed with extraordinary talent. To think that you've ascended from the martial path into the Tao. You have even entered the foundation establishment stage, the one with the highest achievement on the path of martial arts I've encountered so far. The old man's countenance became extraordinarily dignified. He looked at Tang Xiu and asked, "You also know the foundation establishment stage? Who exactly are you?" "Oh, please. Please don't put on such a strange face and remark just because you're ignorant, will you?" said Tang Xiu lightly. "You just need to know that you gotta put a restraint on your family if you're defeated later. Don't let them be frogs who only know to view the sky from the bottom of a well, yet still act domineering and arrogant." "Humph, I can't tell how powerful you are, but it's pointless trying to be a hero with your mouth," snorted the old man coldly. "Just bring it on and let me see your strength." "Just relying on you," talked Tang Xiu back smilingly. "You don't have the qualifications to make me show anything." "Ah, entertain him." Mo strode forward and surged his aura out. He cupped his fist over and said, "My boss has commanded it, so I can't directly kill you. Then, I can only entertain you according to the rules of a sparring match. Old fellow, don't blame me for not reminding you. Give me everything you got, else you'll completely lose your prestige of having that old face if you lose." Chapter 893, You Wanna Send the Money or Get Beaten? The eyes of Zhang Hongding, the ancestor of the Zhang, were blazing with anger. He could easily tell that Mo erupted an aura that was stronger than what he could muster. The oppressive feeling brought by his momentum forced him to cast away his previous contempt. "You must still hold the virtue of respecting the old and cherishing the young man." As his voice faded away, he turned into a shadow and flashed towards Mo with dozens of fist strikes that were swiftly delivered in just a second. Boom. The dull clashes of punches made the majority of the onlookers slightly change in expression. Chan Anhu was the most shocked as he was once one of the top special commandos in China. He had gone through hails of bullets and storms of fire and water, blazing through the path of killings, encountering many experts an unknown number of times. Nevertheless, he had never encountered such terrible existences like these people. They were much more powerful than the martial art grandmasters he saw in movies. A few seconds later, Zhang Hongding staggered 7 steps backwards with green veins protruding on his old face. His eyes gleamed with disbelief while the gray coat on his chest was torn, a mark of a palm clearly printed on his chest. Mo retracted and composed his aura back while looking at Zhang Hongding contemptuously. He then came to Tang Xiu immediately and respectfully reported, "This old guy has lost, boss." Tang Xiu nodded with satisfaction and gently flicked his fingers. As Mo retreated to the side, he calmly said, "So, how was it? Do you think it's still necessary to go further than that?" Zhang Hongding shook his head with an astringent face. He just had a blow with Mo. The clash had been only several seconds. The others might not be able to see the crux of the issue, but he was perfectly clear that he had lost, and even badly at that. If Mo just wanted to kill him, he would have had at least several chances to do so. "I lost." Zhang Hongding watched Mo with a complex expression, then turned to Tang Xiu as he sighed, "This old man admits to have completely lost. Please state your purpose of coming to my Zhang house, young man." Tang Xiu got up and clapped his hands, then smiled, "You admit your defeat, so things will be much easier now. So, Patriarch Zhang, can I still count on your word?" There was shame in Zhang Pinqin's eyes when he coldly replied, "Choosing to gamble means that I dare to pay the losses as well. State your conditions." A cold expression covered Tang Xiu's face as he replied in a heavy voice, "From now henceforth, the Zhangs are forbidden to have any thoughts on those ports. Additionally, you will transfer at least 2 other ports you own within 3 days to compensate the mental damages Uncle Qin has gone through." "You have my word," replied Zhang Pinqin while clenching his fists. Tang Xiu scornfully sneered, "I only will take 2 ports from you this time. But all of you Zhang guys had better remember my words. Ask me clearly first before you do your machinations involving the people I care about. I don't care if you provoke others, but if you do that to my people, then I'll destroy your whole family." Just as his voice faded away, a surge of aura blasted out from him along with the appearance of a long sword in his hand, causing numerous people in the courtyard feel suffocated by the pressure. Tang Xiu brandished that sword toward the three-story European-styled pavilion in the north. The sword chi flashed unhindered with a rainbow-like sword beam. The stylish European-style pavilion instantly split in half before it rumbled and collapsed, sending a mist of dust into the air. Hiss! A cold gasp was let out by Zhang Hongding, the ancestor of the Zhangs. He shuddered violently while his eyes watched Tang Xiu with a look of fear. That aura, and that strength. It was so obvious to him, making him realize that Tang Xiu's accomplishment in martial arts was at least several realms higher than his. This young man was highly likely to be a cultivator himself, even at least at the stage of Golden Core. It came to him that if it were Tang Xiu who clashed with him a while ago, a slap from him could have killed him easily. The shocks and horrified expressions of the Zhang family's members made Tang Xiu feel satisfied, as it meant that he had achieved his purpose, to set up his might and prestige to them. Therefore, he didn't feel like staying any longer. He then looked at Kutuk coming from Thailand and indifferently said, "Go back to Thailand earlier and pass my message to your dark shaman patriarch. I'll come to visit your clan a few days from now." All right. Despite being a powerful shaman, Kutu didn't dare to be disrespectful before Tang Xiu. The longsword Tang Xiu had just showcased sent a chill down his spine, and he was perfectly aware that he was absolutely not Tang Xiu's opponent, not even his patriarch. On the way back, Chen Anhu felt like he was dreaming. The difficult problem that had plagued his mind recently had been resolved by Tang Xiu so easily. More so that he never thought that he could even snatch 2 more ports from the Zhangs. It must be noted that those 2 ports occupied by the Zhangs were very good places, which would be a great boon to expand the scale of his business and earn a fortune. By the way, Tang Xiu, can you tell me whether this Uncle Chen of yours can be as powerful as you? Chen Anhu couldn't help but ask as he looked at Tang Xiu beside him, who closed his eyes and didn't speak. If you were 20 years younger, maybe there would be hope for you, Uncle Chan. Tang Xiu shook his head and smilingly replied. But now there is not, though you can cultivate some cultivation techniques to strengthen your body and can prolong your lifespan. If you want it, I'll stay in your place for a day and impart you with something. It was a happy surprise for Chen Anhu, and he excitedly replied, "Good, great. You're welcome to my place." Tang Xiu smiled at his response and turned to look outside the window. Macau had a very good environment, and he also liked it here, especially its sunny beach. It made him suddenly recall the dream he had of going to school and seeing the sunny beach on TV. It was a dream that he could play there someday. I was so naive back then, wasn't I? Tang Xiu inwardly laughed at himself. Just as he was about to retract his vision back, his expression suddenly changed and, in almost a flash, he pushed the door open and dashed out. "Stop and park the car quickly." Chen Anhu, who sat beside him, was like a blind man that was unable to react, and instantly shouted when he saw the seat next to him became empty and he looked at the door that opened and closed. His anxiousness shot up to the roof. He truly couldn't figure why Tang Xiu was looking for his own death. What exactly happened? The car was traveling at least at 100 kilometers per hour, yet he just dashed out like that? Creak. The car braked and stopped at the roadside quickly as Chen Anhu hastily leaned to the seat Tang Xiu just sat in and looked out the window. But he was dumbfounded when he saw Tang Xiu dashing like he was flying towards the beach not far away. He was just like those kung fu masters in the martial world in the movies. Over there? About 2 kilometers away were more than 10 young people in outlandish attire surrounding 2 young men in the middle. The duo had bloody noses and swollen faces with blood stains on the corners of their mouths. It was obvious that they had been badly beaten. The duo was Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong, who had just come to Macau for a fun trip. Call and fucking ask your family to prepare the money. 100,000 yuan and not a penny less, otherwise, this big daddy will take your limbs off, loudly shouted the red bleached hair youth with earrings and a needle piercing the corner of his lips. He was remarkably like the stereotype of a delinquent gangster with his baseball bat arrogantly pointed at the duo. Pwa. Hu Chingsong spat out a mouthful of blood and saliva. He ferociously glared at the red-haired youth and growled, "I got no money and only one life. Just chop my fucking limbs off if you got balls." Yu Kai struggled to get up from the ground and grabbed Hu Chingsong's arm. He hurriedly called out, "Don't show off, old Hu. And you, big bro, we were in the wrong and we admit that, but we didn't know that those 2 bells were yours. 100,000 yuan is way too much for us. Let alone us alone, but even our families are probably unable to afford it. Do you see this? I got 50,000 yuan here and will immediately make a phone call, and try our best to immediately give you the rest of the 50,000 soon." "Hey, Yu Kai, why did you have to bow down to this bunch of punks?" scowled Hu Chingsong. "They just messed with this daddy, yet you wanna fucking drag me from paying it back." "Are you finished yet?" interrupted Yu Kai as he angrily shouted back, "A man knows better than to fight if the odds are against him. Don't you get it? They can fight even though they only have a few people. If you can fuck all of them up, then keep showing off. But if not, then shut up." Hu Chingsong opened his mouth but eventually flung his face to the side. He was good at brawling himself and a few ruffians were usually not his match. But this time, he was hitting a solid iron board. These guys obviously practiced martial arts. They may be dressed up outlandishly, yet they were good at punching and kicking. At the very least, he didn't have the confidence to knock one of them if he were to fight all of them alone. While enduring aches all over his body, Yu Kai grabbed his mobile phone and thought for a second before he found a number and dialed it. Ring, ring, ring. A ringtone of a mobile sounded, making Yu Kai blank out because the sound came from someone's handset nearby. He thought that it was a coincidence and turned his head to look towards the direction of the ringing phone, only to have disbelief cover his bloody nose and a swollen face. Tang. Big bro, Tang. Yu Kai rubbed his eyes hard and thought that he was just seeing things. Tang Xiao was standing several meters away from the group of people, already had taken out a cigarette and lit it up. He had fully heard all the threats toward Yu Kai and Hu Chingsong from these people. When everyone's attention was garnered at him, Tang Xiao slowly walked over and witnessed his 2 buddies with bruised faces and blood on the corner of their mouths. It made him angry, yet his face didn't flinch at all and remained smiling. "You two got some fun time, didn't you?" After determining that the one who came was truly Tang Xiao, Yu Kai finally called out ecstatically, "Boss Tang. How are you here?" "You came here yourself, so why can't I be here?" replied Tang Xiao. "Anyway, what happened to you? Are you two coming here to play, or did you just get kidnapped or something?" Meanwhile, Hu Chingsong looked embarrassed after seeing clearly that it was Tang Xiao. With eyes full of shame, he wished that could find a burrow to bury himself into. His lips squirmed a few times upon hearing Tang Xiao's inquiry, but he bit the bullet and said, "We made a trip to have some fun here, big bro, Tang, yet we got set up by this bunch of wretched punks." "So, tell me then. How did they set you up?" asked Tang Xiao with a smile. The red-haired youth raised the baseball bat in his hand and pointed it at Tang Xiao while strangely smirking. "Wow, big bro, boss Tang, huh? You turn out to be the big bro of these 2 boys? Did you come here to send the money, or do you want to get beaten together with them?" Chapter 894, This guy is really cool and handsome. Tang Xiao watched the red-haired youth with a strange expression. As he smirked with a sneer and was about to speak, he suddenly noticed that 2 bells wearing bikinis and sunglasses came over. They had good stature and had fine skin. He even noticed Yu Kai and Hu Chingsong gulped down at the same time at the sight of them. What a bunch of immature brats. Tang Xiao was a bit at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry and asked them, "You two couldn't be thinking to bounce up some fairies to heaven here, could you?" Yu Kai and Hu Chingsong instantly blushed at the same time. When the red-haired youth saw Tang Xiao ignore him, he suddenly yelled angrily, "Hey, you, punk! You're crazy enough, aren't you? This big daddy is talking with you, yet you feign madness before me? Tang Xiu knitted his brows and said, I don't give a damn if you are annoying the hell out of others, but these guys are my buddies. You just put them in this state, so we have an account to deal with here. Do you think I'm crazy and feigning madness? You'll know about it right away. With that said, Tang Xiu raced to the front of the red-haired youth and fiercely slapped him. He then pulled him from the ground and looked at the other dozen youths who wanted to storm over at him as he shouted with a heavy voice. Think clearly, boys. Fight me, and the consequences you'll experience will be very serious. That stylish, imposing manner immediately overwhelmed the onlookers. More than 10 youths who wanted to gang up on him had a slight change in expression. They were not with many connections and were without any sound background, yet they still could tell that Tang Xiu might be not ordinary given his imposing manner. Whoops, who's this handsome guy? So cool. I'll definitely accept if he's the one who pursues me. The two girls in bikinis now clearly discerned that Tang Xiu was handsome and called out grinningly. One was even quite bold and had a thick face as she came to Tang Xiu to pinch his arm. Pa. Pa. Tang Xiu directly slapped their faces, slumping them down on the beach before he coldly snorted at them. You two are the sluts who have made these two brothers of mine get beaten. This will be the lesson for you two to not play the trick of the thorny rose in order to get laid. The red-haired youth struggled to climb up from the sandy beach and glared at Tang Xiu incredulously. With blazing anger, he burst out all the vexation inside his chest. Are you all fucking stupid? Beat him to death. Over 100 meters away from them, Mo and the rest were bolting toward them. In just a few seconds, they had sprinted to a position nearby Tang Xiu, and, right at the moment these ruffians stormed at Tang Xiu, Mo's group straightly acted, sending barrages of punches and kicks to beat dozens of them. Gulp. Once the stalwart men appeared with powerful kung fu, only then did the red-haired youth realize that they seemed to have provoked powerful people. He had been a martial artist himself. More so that he had been practicing the true spirit martial school for about 10 years. Ordinary groups of even 5 strong young men were not his opponents at all, while all the brothers around him were also his comrades who had been practicing kung fu at the same school for 5+ years. They usually had it easy in facing against 2 or 3 people, yet, more than 10 of them had all been beaten in less than 10 seconds, indicating that these big men were really powerful. Who are you exactly? The red-haired youth paced back a few steps and asked vigilantly. Tang Xiu ignored him and looked at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong instead as he asked them, now tell me, both of you. What do you want to do to these punks? Do you want to make them disabled or straightly make them scram? Give them a beating to vent our anger, said Yu Kai loudly. Hu Qingsong's expression, however, was a bit strange. He was silent for several seconds before he held Yu Kai and shook his head. Just let them scram. It's indeed our fault for being careless and falling for their shitty trick this time. I'll remember today's lesson and will be more careful in the future. They are nothing but some rabbles, Yu Kai, said Tang Xiu smilingly. No need to stoop down to their stupidity for you either. If you're still irate with them, then beat them if you want. I and my men will break their limbs if any of them dares to fight back. Yu Kai hesitated for a moment and looked at Hu Qingsong. Then he shook his head and let out a dry smile. Forget it then, man. They are just rabbles like you said, and I'm too lazy to give a shit about them. Old Hu is right in any case. I won't let any thoughts of getting laid cloud my judgment whenever I bump into this kind of situation again in the future. Tang Xiu nodded at his response with a smile. He then glanced at the crowd and said, you all heard them. Do you still want the money then? No, it's our fault. No, no, no. How dare we ask for that? We'll scram at once. More than 10 of the badly beaten bludgers struggled to crawl up from the ground and ran toward the distance while replying, including the red-haired youth who also ran for tens of meters. When he felt that Tang Xiu's group wouldn't be able to catch up, However, he halted and turned around, shouting, "Just you wait for me. I'm not a man if I don't pay this back. I'll make you look great sooner or later." Mo's expression changed and he was about to immediately chase him. Tang Xiu reached out to stop him and smilingly said, "They are just children." Speaking so fierce just to save face after experiencing a substantial loss. "Let them scram and ignore them." Mo nodded. The two girls who had been slapped by Tang Xiu, however, didn't run away like those young rabbles at the moment, nor did they look angry. What was strange from their actions was that they only looked surprised as they got up from the ground, and just stood about 7+ meters away, watching Tang Xiu as though they were looking at a rare, exotic animal. "Hey, you two. If you don't learn well while you're still young, you'll just become the parasite of the society later. Scram from this place and do think carefully to not walk further on the wrong road, will you?" reproved Tang Xiu at the two girls while pulling Hu Qingsong and Yu Kai to leave. The two belles on the beach watched Tang Xiu's back as he left. Suddenly, one of them called out loudly, "Hey, handsome, what's your name and do you have a girlfriend?" Unfortunately, she didn't get the answer she wanted, yet they didn't leave until Tang Xiu and the rest had disappeared on the distant road. Yeah, he's a real, cool guy. You know, I'm gonna clear things up with red hair immediately after I get back. I'll definitely draw a clear line with him in the future. You see. I gotta set my sight on the journey of finding my love. I'm gonna chase up that cool, handsome fella, vowed the taller girl while clenching her small fists. The girl called Yeah, replied, "I'm going with you, so let's have a fair match, shall we? We'll see whose skirt that cool and handsome fella will fall under." Deal. Shortly after, the two belles let out happy laughter on the beach as they quickly strode towards the two luxurious supercars in the distant parking lot. On the far side of the road, Chen Anhu watched the group of people returning back. His eyes fell on the swollen faces of Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong who got badly beaten. Then he looked at Tang Xiu as he strode forward towards him and said unhappily, "Your action was way too rash, Tang Xiu. You know the car was speeding at 100 kilometers per hour, yet you still dashed out. What would I do if you got injured?" "I'm fine, Uncle Chen," said Tang Xiu smilingly. "It's just that I suddenly saw these two brothers of mine getting bullied, so I couldn't resist rushing over." "Yu Kai, old Hu, this is Uncle Chen, the big boss of the Dingfeng group in Macau." "How do you do, Uncle Chen?" "I'm Yu Kai," greeted Yu Kai politely. "How do you do, Uncle Chen?" "I'm Hu Qingsong," said Hu Qingsong. Chen Anhu nodded at their greetings. With his eyesight, he could see that both of them were just ordinary people. They shouldn't be people who had practiced martial arts. However, their attire indicated that they were not children of poor families, even though their clothes were not branded ones. "Hello, you two," nodded Chen Anhu, smiling. "So, you two clashed with some people? Do you want me to send some people to teach those kids a lesson?" "Thanks for your kindness, but no thanks, Uncle Chen," Hu Qingsong shook his head and said, "There's no need to teach them. Big Bro, Tang and his men have already taught them by beating them intensely, so we've already vented out our vexed feelings." "That's great then. Feel free to find me if you got some problems later, though," said Chen Anhu smilingly. Tang Xiu patted their shoulders and smilingly said, "Well, since you both already made a trip to Macau, just have some fun here, got it? Though I want you two to behave for at least 2 days since you guys got injured. Wanna head over and stay in Uncle Chen's place with me?" Yu Kai exchanged glances with Hu Qingsong as the latter shook his head and said, "No, we're not going to disturb Uncle Chen. But we'll visit your home after we get better, though. Anyway, Big Bro, Tang, what's your next plan? You got some time to spare to have some fun with us?" "I can't." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "I'll only stay in Macau until tomorrow and will leave for Thailand the day after." "That's right, if that bunch of people get you in trouble again after I leave, you can directly contact Uncle Chen and he'll help you deal with it." "Got it." No problem, nodded the duo. Island Palace Garden, Villa A058 in Tungsha District. As the motorcade of off-road cars parked outside the villa's entrance, Tang Yunda, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately rushed out and asked with concern, "How was it? Has the problem with the Zhangs been solved already?" Chen Anhu happily nodded and praised, "Brother Yunda, I finally get why you said that now. Looking for Tang Xiu for help was absolutely correct. There have been only a few I admire in this life, and I gotta add one more to the list, Tang Xiu." Tang Yunda couldn't help but chuckle and responded, "What exactly did he do? To think that he's worthy of such high praise from you." "You didn't see it for yourself," exclaimed Chan Anhu. "Tang Xiu not only has so many powerful men under him, but his own combat force is also astonishing. People said a powerful dragon can never suppress a local snake, but I saw a major drama subvert that saying. A powerful dragon does have the power to suppress a local snake until it cannot lift its head up high. Well, we've got our problems dealt with now. Even made a huge profit." "Huge profit?" asked Tang Yunda with a strange expression. "What exactly did we profit from?" "Well, I'll let Tang Xiu tell you that," said Chan Anhu with a smile. "You'll definitely be ecstatic after you hear it, though. Anyway, let's go and talk inside, shall we?" Tang Yunda looked at Tang Xiu with satisfaction before he nodded and took the lead to briskly stride into the villa. Chapter 895, You'll Never Suffer a Loss for Calling Me a Brother. The beautiful sunshine bestowed its brightness on the earth amid the blooming beautiful purple and red flowers, adorning the villas and courtyard in a beautiful and picturesque scene. Tang Xiu was calmly sitting on the stone bench in the courtyard while holding a book, yet he didn't have any thoughts to read it. He just received sudden news that made him put his plan leaving for Thailand on hold temporarily. "We can only wait more time, Mr. Tang," said Singluan with a helpless expression, though with a bit of regret in his eyes while he sat across Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu nodded without a word and didn't speak for a long while. Then, he remarked, "Well, since your big brother is in Europe for some time, we'll talk about it again later then. Just keep an eye on the situation over there. Once you get a message that he has returned to Thailand, do inform me immediately. You can rest assured about that." "I'll send some people to keep an eye on him," said Singluan. "Also, about our deal. I'll wait for you in Shanghai 3 days from now," said Tang Xiu. "As long as you bring me a batch of sorcerer's stones, I'll give you the medicinal pill." "Singluan, we did have some conflicts before, but I shall let bygones be bygones, and I hope you also do the same. I really hope that we can become friends, and not enemies in the future." "I understand, Mr. Tang," said Singluan solemnly, "although there's a mutually beneficial relationship between us, I dare not provoke you and I can't afford to. I also know that it's better to be friends with powerhouses rather than becoming their enemies, to begin with. I'll also never do anything unfair to you in my life as long as you don't harm me either. I'll hold on to your words." "You can go," said Tang Xiu with satisfaction. Singluan didn't stay any longer and left under Tang Xiu's watchful gaze. He knew that he had encountered a huge opportunity due to the jade rat. He wanted to seize it and thus, he must hurry to go back to figure out the whereabouts of his brother and try his best to help Tang Xiu get the jade pig. The zodiac jade carvings may bring about good effects for him, yet the gap between it with the miraculous elixir was like a chasm. He wanted to get a lot of medicinal pills. He wanted to be a genuine powerhouse, and hoped that he could use that miraculous elixir to cultivate a large number of experts. At least, they must be at the level of Tang Xiu's men who had powerfully crushed even the renowned Zhang family in Macau and frightened them. Inside the compound, Tang Xiu was watching Chen Anhu, who was now cultivating in accordance to the cultivation route he had taught him. While looking at him, however, he secretly sighed inwardly. As a matter of fact, he had actually helped Chen Anhu to embark on the path of cultivation, yet the path to immortality was fraught with dangers. One might even lose their souls and be consigned to eternal damnation once they failed. As for the present, He had imparted cultivation technique to his parents, as well as several core members of the Tang family. Even then, he didn't have much hope for these people either. After all, cultivating on the path to immortality was not something that could be achieved overnight. Whether they could have great accomplishments, or whether they could ascend to the immortal world in the future, everyone could only rely on themselves alone. Are you thinking about something, Xiao? Tang Yunda, who came inside from the outside, accidentally found himself walking in front of his son. He hadn't even noticed it. Tang Xiao came back to his senses and smilingly said, "Yeah, I've been and thought about something, Dad. Anyway, what's up? Are you busy with something?" "Sure. I do have something to be busy with," said Tang Yunda with a chuckle. "I just looked at the financial statements of the company in Macau and kinda learned about some business of the company here. In fact, it's your Uncle Chin who's the real busy man. That reminds me, though. What's up with him now? He also wants to follow your path and cultivate now?" "Uncle Chin is no longer suitable to walk on the cultivation path, Dad," said Tang Xiao. "At least not for now. I did teach him some physical exercises to keep his body healthy and to prolong his lifespan, giving him the taste of cultivation first. Everyone wishes to obtain the fate of becoming immortal, yet how would such a path be easy to traverse? Otherwise, there would be tons of cultivators in this world, so not as scarce as it is now." "That's right. Have you dealt with your business here in Macau? What's your next plan? Continue on to Thailand?" "Nah. Singluan just told me that his brother just left for Europe, so I won't set off to Thailand for the time being." Tang Xiao shook his head and said, "I'm planning to go back to the mainland tomorrow to deal with some important issues." Tang Yunda produced a wry smile. "I really felt that I've become more and more useless when compared to you, son. But you're still young, so don't work too hard. Money has no bounds and struggle is a never-ending phenomenon. As for your cultivation, you should also relax a bit and slowly progress forward. I just want to say that you also need a good rest, to have a love life, and enjoy your time. Besides, your mother is looking forward to holding her grandchildren." "Ugh. I'm only 21 now, Dad, so there's no rush about that," said Tang Xiao. "Besides, being young means that I am full of energy to work hard and struggle more. My path is already fated and I'm already destined to be very different from others. I will fall into difficulties in the future if I'm not working hard now." Tang Yunda fell into silence for a while. Then he seriously asked, "Xiao, can you tell me what your ultimate dream is? I always watch you struggle and go all out, what is it for?" Tang Xiao stood up and pointed to the vast expanse of the sky. "The goal of the first phase is to break the shackles of the sky above my head and ascend to a higher plane. As for the future, I'll become an eagle that flies in the sky or a fish that traverses the bottom of the ocean, one who struggles to compete with myriads of others to break free from the frozen sky, one who upsets the lonely corridor that presides over Mother Earth and becomes a sovereign who oversees the ups and downs in life." "You?" Tang Yunda stared at him with a dull face. He opened his mouth, yet swallowed back all the words he was about to say. His son's remarks made him realize that his son's ambitions and heart were so big that he dared not imagine them. Tang Xiao produced a faint smile and looked at Tang Yunda. Then, he suddenly said, "Father, I just changed my mind. I'm going back to the mainland now and won't waste my time here. I'll make a trip back right away." "Ah, that's right, when will you go back?" "I'm going to stay here for a while. I'll be going back after settling all the issues with the ports," answered Tang Yunda. Tang Xiao nodded at his answer and shouted in a deep voice, "Gu Tao, Zhang Ju. You both will protect my father's safety for some time. I'll arrange some others to take over your duty once I get back." "Understood." Gu Tao and Zhang Ju appeared outside the courtyard's gate and respectfully replied. As dusk came, Tang Xiao had already returned to Shanghai. The first person he contacted was Shuiyu and learned that she was currently in the Sichuan province. He immediately caught up with her along with Mo, Jing, Shui Sha, and He Xiong. It was already 10 at night when he arrived there. Chang City was the capital of the Sichuan province in the western region. It had been rapidly developing in recent years and was now ranked as a second-tier city in China. In the center of its downtown area was Bai Square, which contained high-rise buildings accompanied by upscale commercial establishments. Here, the Chang City Hotel was located. Tang Shou. At the entrance of the hotel, Shuiyu in her usual long white dress saw Tang Shou get out of the car in front of her. Happiness was evident on her face because they had not seen each other for a while since she was in another region, while having nothing much to do, whereas Tang Shou was always busy elsewhere. Tang Shou let out a light smile and came to hug her. Then, he smiled and asked, "What kind of busy work do you got going on here?" "Well, it was the idea you told me before," said Shuiyu with a smile. "I felt that it was easy to do, so I did it. Well, I now got jades and antiques apart from medicinal materials. And the company I just registered is kinda growing very fast and is quite profitable from the business. It's okay, doing business, but don't forget to cultivate. Don't make it delay your progress," said Tang Shou with a smile. "The path we'll be walking on in the future is destined to be different from ordinary people." "I know," replied Shuiyu with a smile. Tang Shou nodded and asked, "All right, shall we go now? Let's take a rest here today and we'll head to Longquan Bay in Kaunas tomorrow morning at once. We're going to open the Immortal trove there early to see what's stored inside." Shuiyu looked hesitant and asked, "Can we stay a day more? I need to tend to some more things here. I already invited some guests that will arrive in Chang City tomorrow afternoon." "Who are they?" asked Tang Shou, surprised. "There are two of them, one of whom is an herbalist, while the other one is a dragon vein specialist," explained Shuiyu. "Both of them are not ordinary people and I just got acquainted with them through the elder of my family when I returned to the village. The elder said that if I get the help of these two people, it would equal to having two right arms for me in the future. I know an herbalist is someone who makes a living by gathering medicinal herbs in the mountains, but what is a dragon vein specialist exactly?" "I never heard of it before," asked Tang Shou with confusion. Shuiyu grabbed his arm and entered the elevator under the countless envious gazes of people in the surroundings. The former then said, "A dragon vein specialist is actually a kind of feng shui expert, just with a specialty to look for the earth vein which is called dragon vein. These kind of people are very proficient in feng shui and what they are best at is finding and prospecting mineral deposits. Rumors have it that this dragon vein specialist has made sensational feats, though I can't tell you about it specifically now. Besides, you're going to see him anyway." "He's good at finding minerals, you said?" asked Tang Shou with raised brows. "Of course," affirmed Shuiyu. "Besides, he seems to be a world-renowned geologist as well." "All right, we'll stay a day more and we'll meet him tomorrow then." Tang Shou nodded and said, "Anyway, let's not talk about this. How have you been all this while? You're not tired after running about everywhere?" A smile covered Shuiyu's face and she replied, "I'm not, but I often think that I don't have sufficient funds, though. It's been kinda limiting my moves." Tang Shou couldn't help but laugh and said, "Why didn't you tell me if you're short on money? Your man may be lacking many things, but money isn't one of them." "All right, I'll transfer 1 billion yuan to you later. Just tell me if it's not enough." Amid the wake of their simmering laughter, a discordant voice suddenly sounded in the elevator. "I've seen people bragging so amazingly, yet never once have I seen one that blows it up to this height. 1 billion, huh? Why don't you say 10 billion outright?" Tang Shou and Shuiyu exchanged glances as the duo gazed at the only outsider in the elevator at the same time. It was a young man in a suit and tie, clamped with a briefcase beside his elbow. He had just sneered at them. "What's your name, buddy?" asked Tang Shou with a smile. The young man rolled his eyes, showing that he didn't feel like answering. His eyes, however, swept over the fine skin on Shuiyu's neck and her face before he finally spoke to her. Name is Wu Mingquan. I should be a few years older than you. You won't suffer a loss if you call me a brother. Tang Xiao broke into laughter and didn't talk to Wu Mingquan again. When the elevator reached the 4th floor, Shuiyu pulled him out of the elevator and they passed through a long corridor before entering a deluxe room. I know that young man, Tang Xiao. He's a very persistent salesman and he seems to be coming to this hotel to pester a business owner here every day. It seems like he wants to discuss some big deals or something, said Shuiyu smilingly while taking off Tang Xiao's coat gently.